Hello and welcome to the Preconceived Podcast, a special Valentine's Day edition of the Preconceived Podcast, where we're going to talk about 3 ways that we can love better in every area of our lives. Stay tuned. Hello and welcome once again to the Preconceived Podcast, the podcast that asks the question, what are you really thinking? And what we're thinking about today, quite simply, is love. We find ourselves here on February 14th, which is pretty crazy to think about the fact that it's February already. Like Valentine's Day, it feels like we were just going into Thanksgiving, to Christmas, to New Year's, and now we are closer to spring than we are to Santa. But if you live in the Northeast right now, and I guess out in California, you're actually thinking more about snow, but don't worry, it'll all be gone soon. The days will get longer, the days will get nicer. I'm definitely looking forward to it. But here on Valentine's Day, what we see is a whole holiday created around love. And when it comes down to it, I think a lot of times Valentine's Day becomes just another holiday, another excuse to buy more things. I mean, we have to buy chocolates and candies and flowers and jewelry and all these different things. And I'm not saying any of that's wrong. Ladies, I know you love to get those things. Some of you would probably love just if your husband would clean the house or do the dishes. But, you know, those things are just an expression of love. So there's nothing wrong with that. But I believe we really have to be aware of what we're doing when we're talking about love. I think that love really can be broken down into 2 different elements. It can be broken down into 2 different ways of looking at it. It's either selfless or it's selfish. And when we're talking about what we're thinking about, right? That's what this podcast is about. We should be looking at whether our love is really meant to make us feel better because we're expressing love to the person around us and look what I got you, or is it about being selfless and making sure that that person knows that we're willing to do whatever it takes to really show our love to them and to express that they really do mean something to us. So just to get started today, I want to look at a verse in 1 John chapter 3, and it's a verse that I just was reading the other day and I posted on some of my social media accounts, and it's 1 John chapter 3, verse 18. And it basically says, little children, don't just love based out of your words, but love out of your actions as well. So to paraphrase, don't just talk about how much you love somebody. Don't just even stop at telling them, but you need to show them. It's love in action. It's actually doing something to show that we love the person around us. And really, this is so important, and we could just stop on this one topic today. Because how often in the world around us do we really just see people saying things without actually backing it up with action? And when it comes to love, I think this is such an important thing that we don't just talk about loving people, but that we show, that we make sure that our actions are proving the love that we have, not just for people, but for the things that really do matter in life. So the first thing that I want to talk about, point number 1 today, is that we need to be thinking about others more than we're thinking about ourselves. And really, thinking is the most important thing that we're talking about today. We need to be thinking about other people's needs instead of our own. Once again, it's selfless versus selfish. And unfortunately, a lot of times personally, I think that I kind of fit into the selfish category. Maybe you do too if you really were to think about it. But to be selfish means I'm only thinking about my own desires, thinking about my own needs, thinking about my own ambitions or what it is that I want to accomplish in my life. And then kind of for myself, sometimes down the line, then I tie everybody back into it, whether it's my family, unfortunately, or even, you know, the things that God wants me to do. Sometimes I'm trying to work it all together. But first, usually I'm thinking about myself, and I'm working on this. I'm just being honest with you today. But I want to be more selfless in my life. I want to think about the people around me and think about what I can be doing to help them, to be able to express my love to them based out of my actions instead of putting them second and then trying to kind of incorporate them in afterwards. And I think what we really need to be doing is making a habit out of doing this in our daily lives. Now, for husbands or wives, maybe it's just doing things around the house. Maybe it is doing the dishes, doing the laundry, doing the simple things that show that we love them. For our friendships, for our family members, for whoever it is around us, maybe it's just looking out for them, listening in a conversation instead of being the one to talk about all the things that you care about, but taking the time to listen. Making sure that we're putting other people first is the most important thing that we can be doing. Secondly, what I think that we need to be doing is making sure that we're not just stopping with the people immediately in our life, but that we are taking the time to love everybody we come into contact with. Now, this doesn't always seem so easy, but for me on a daily basis, I'm out there on the road for work and I come across a lot of different people. I see people whether I'm walking by them on the streets or walking into office buildings, and it's very easy just to walk by thinking about whatever is important that I need to be doing next, instead of looking at them and realizing it's another opportunity to express love, even if it's just in a simple way. And what I mean by this is sometimes we walk by people who are hurting or people who are in need or people who just really are down, and we can just do something simple for them, whether it's opening the door for them or letting them in traffic or giving them just a little bit of encouragement. It's the simple things, but I believe that we really need to focus on these areas, once again being selfless instead of selfish, meaning that, we take the time to think about other people around us, because I believe that love is a muscle and it's something that we need to work out. It's something that we need to help grow, because if we don't, then it's going to wither away. And I think that we can be practicing what it means to be true people who love by loving people around us. We're enlarging our capacities to love, which means that when we get home, we have more to love, because love, when we keep investing in it, I believe it just continues to grow. So making sure that we're not just stopping with our friends and our family, but the people in the school that we're around, the people at work, random strangers on the street. Sometimes people just need to talk. And I was listening to a podcast the other day called Exploring the Prophetic, and I listen to it a lot. It's by a guy by the name of Shawn Bolz, and I'll link it down below in the description. But it was an interview with this woman who it was in Hollywood, and she saw somebody who really was in need. He was hungry, and so she wasn't just going to give him money, but she wanted to buy him food. And as she started to talk to him and to listen, she started to hear his story. And at one point, I believe he just broke down and he just said, "No one ever stops just to talk to me. No one else just stops to listen to me. And I just love to talk. I love to express myself. But because of the state that I'm in, because of the condition I'm in, people don't stop." But I believe that if we would take the time to look, we would see people who are in need of love, that we can express the love of God to, just by being kind, just by offering a meal. Maybe it's not even that. Maybe it's just doing something simple. But I believe that's so important. And finally, number 3, and I think this is really important too, is that we need to make sure that we're loving ourselves. We need to make sure that our thoughts are in alignment with who God says that we are, which means that we see ourselves and we think about ourselves having great value, thinking about ourselves as being ones who are worthy of love. It's kind of like when you talk about on the airplane where the mask comes down and you have to be able to put it on yourself first before you help others. We need to make sure that we're loving ourselves first, that we're allowing ourselves to be loved by God, so that we have a bigger capacity, once again, to be able to love the people around us. And this isn't selfish just because we're talking about ourselves, but this is just such an important thing, because we need to know how to experience it in order to truly give it. Love thy neighbor as you love yourself. It's such an important thing. And I believe that if we begin to do that, that our love really will be in action instead of just words, instead of just talking about it, instead of just commenting on social media with a heart or double tapping, so the heart pops up. It's actual love that we're talking about. And I believe it's so important. I believe that if we would do these 3 things, that love really would be actions, and that people would begin to experience it and feel it in all areas. So if you have anything to comment below, I would love if you would comment below. I'd love if you hit the subscribe button, which I believe is right over there. I think that would be great. And I'd really appreciate it. And also, I'd like to just point out this awesome shirt that I'm wearing by Lion and Lamb Clothing. I'm going to link to their products below. They make some awesome clothes, and I just want to support a great company who has a great message. So go over to their page, check it out, buy some of their shirts, buy some of their clothes, hats, whatever it is, support them. I think that would be awesome. And I just want to say thank you once again for watching. Have an awesome day.